Hey guys, wiper motors. Let's get through this pretty quickly. We got different kinds. They wipe different parts of the window. You've probably seen some of these. They have some weird ones out there. Back in the day, they were like manually operated. You had like a lever you had to move back and forth. It was like 100 years ago. Now they operate by gears and arms and levers and stuff. I mean, the motor itself goes around and round. It doesn't go back and forth. They fix that, and they do that with the linkage that's attached, which that's also can be problematic. Type of motors being used in the wiper system. Well, it's a permanent magnet motor, a bidirectional motor. It's just like the power windows that we dealt with. It's virtually the same thing, although it has an extra brush in there, and that's what gives it its speeds on a lot of these. They use multiple brushes on the commutator in order to give it different speeds. Okay, and they use this plastic geared transmission in many instances. The transmission, just like transmission in a car, helps reduce the speed and increase the torque. And then they stick like a worm gear in there, and that's what changes it 90 degrees. They do wear out. Some of them are replaceable. You can rebuild the wiper transmission by just ordering the parts or a complete transmission. Then here's kind of what it looks like inside. We still got the standard motor stuff. Got the armature, got the brushes, that attaches to the shaft, goes inside the transmission, and that's what moves the arm back and forth. Wiper arms are connected to this linkage and ride on a pivot point. It's a little like ball and socket that they ride on. Uh, the the springs, I'm sure you guys have played with them. The wiper arms themselves are held up against the window with quite strong springs to keep the wiper up against the glass. the Anyways, the linkage actually sits at the base of the windshield. You got to realize this is a high water traffic location. All the water that travels down the windshield flows into a trough that's at the base of the window, and then there's drains that exit off the sides. That's also where the fresh air inlet is for the air conditioning system. It sits there to get fresh air. Now the linkage gets a lot of water travel over it, so you can imagine what that can do to the metal or the plastic sometimes that these things are made out of. You see people like, it gets stuck and iced up and they just grab a hold of the arm and yank on it. Really a bad idea. You could bend the linkage and then it's kind of, you're in trouble. Usually these things, the linkage systems are not maintained, although they can get noisy, they can get squeaky, they can also start to wear or get loose. It's not a bad idea to open this up and lubricate them once in a while. I mean, I get a car, I'm keeping it for a while, it's old vehicle, I'm going to open it up, have a fast look, any corrosion, any stuff, clean it up, lube it up. It should last for a long time. Now, some of these guys, the speed control, here's my common brush. I add voltage to here and it's directly across from each other, and that causes high speed. They put the low speed brush at a slightly different angle on the commutator. This gives us the low speed. Now, some guys use CEMF in order to control this. Anytime a DC motor spins, it produces some AC current, which technically slows the motor down. The higher the RPM, more CEMF is produced. So some wipers use this CEMF to control speed. So sometimes when you're taking like a measurement of voltage on the wiper motor itself, charged battery is 12.6 ish volts, It's not uncommon to see 16 volts on a wiper and go, where the hell did that come from? It's the CEMF part. All right. Now, we look at this one and just take a fast look at it. Here's my wiper switch. On low speed, it applies directly to the motor, B+, because here's my ground, and the motor is in low speed. I look at the washer pump. This is a positive side switch. Washer pump is grounded on the outside. This guy feeds 12 volts to it. The washer pump spins. Okay. In high speed, it just changes where the voltage is applied. It applies it to the high speed brush rather than the low speed brush. And when the wipers are parking, you know, if you notice that, like, you know, when you're wiping and you turn it off and it like goes, you know, it goes down and then it drops the rest of the way down, it's called a park function. Sometimes that park switch goes bad and the wipers don't stop. But what all this does is it reverses the motor. Anyways. Intermittent wiper designs. A lot of times there's a module that's involved. It's actually a pretty simple RC circuit, you know, a resistor, a capacitor. Resistor charges up, the capacitor charges up, the resistor bleeds the current off, and that's what flips a transistor. You play with the sizes of the resistor and the capacitor, and that's what gives you the basic timing functions. So they use a resistor and a capacitor, two products and a transistor, in order to make the wiper intermittent, which is a great story. There's a great movie on intermittent wipers. You should go watch it. I forget the name of it. Actually pretty good if you're a geeky guy like me. Some people incorporate, or some vehicles incorporate it into body control, so it's computer controlled, but it's basically the same type of a timer circuit. Variable resistors or some type of resistor matrix is used usually. Most of the times that's built into the module. And then we just, you know, the timer function is what pulses the couple of wipes out to the motor to, you know, clean the windshield. Washer pump, simple motor, B+ on one side, 12 volts on the other. It's a pump, squirts washer fluid on the windows. It's a pretty simple circuit. Okay, park switch. This is the lower limit of the stroke is reached. When the wipers come down, it opens the switch and shuts everything off. So sometimes that guy, you know, sometimes it's mechanically connected. There's like a cam lobe in there that wears out. Some of these earlier ones, and even some of the newer ones, that parking switch can be adjusted. So not necessary to replace it if it's gone out of adjustment. Wipers operate slower than normal. You know, if they're just wiping really slow, it very well could be that it's caused by a mechanical malfunction of the arms, or it could just be due to a worn out motor. Tip is take a current draw of the motor and then look at the fuse that it's covered. So if it's, you know, the fuse for the wipers is a 15 amp fuse, I would expect no more than about 7 amps on that fuse, about half. If it's higher than that, I'm suspecting a bad motor. If it's lower than that, I'm expecting some type of a voltage drop in the circuit where it's not getting enough voltage. This is where I go actually measure the voltage. And remember, while it's wiping, I might get higher than battery voltage, but I shouldn't get lower, at least a lot, you know, and I can do a voltage drop across it. If it's intermittent or doesn't work at all, you know, check the grounds, check the wiper switch, check the fuse, you know, the basics. And then I'm going to get out there and like show you some of this stuff. And then washer diagnostic tips. You know, how many times have had people come in and tell me their washer doesn't work, and I open it up and it doesn't have any in it. You just got to check it first. And then you just check for proper motor operation. Make sure it checks. Make sure it checks for, you know, you check for blockage. Make sure you check for the tubes are connected to the hood or to the little squirter things. Check and see if the squirter things are actually, you know, not plugged up with debris, because that happens too. And if the motor doesn't work, you don't hear it going zzz, 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 zzz. Check power and ground. If it's, you know, has power and ground and it doesn't work, it's a bad motor. If it doesn't, probably going to have to go check the switch. And that's about it. Any questions?